Welcome to Boxing on the Record with Shy-Town and Randy. Shy-Town, what's going on with you, man?
Man, Randy, it's fight week. We have this huge fight that everyone's been waiting for has finally arrived. We've been waiting about 6 years, and it's happening this Saturday. Two undefeated welterweights, Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Bud Crawford, are finally going to clash for the king of the welterweights, if you will. Who's going to be the champion? Who's going to have all the belts? It's the first time we'll have an undisputed champion at welterweight in this four-belt era. So, it's an exciting fight. Everybody's ready for it. And you know how I get down, Randy. I like to, you have your emotional aspect, you have your emotional fans that just ride or die based off of emotion because I just like this guy's from my hometown or this. And then, you have people that just hate a particular fighter because the fighter didn't sign a glove for them or they saw a booger and know that he didn't pick out or something, whatever. So they have some kind of issue towards the fighter. And they use that to argue their various points. But you know how we get down, Randy, and how I do. I like to look at the science of boxing. I like to look at what each fighter brings to the table. And I think we can take a little bit of time right now, Randy, in anticipation of this fight, and look at maybe some of the pros and cons that each fighter brings to this fight. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to look at Bud Crawford first. I'm gonna talk about a couple of things I think that Bud does well that he could bring to this fight on Saturday, and I think one thing that something that Bud does. I'm not struggling to find anything that Bud does well. Don't get me there. I'm struggling to think about what he literally does well at welterweight. That's the only thing, because we do know what he does well at 140 pounds and what he does well at 135 pounds, but he hasn't necessarily fought those top people at 147 pounds. And so, when I try to look at their body of work in that division that they're looking at. And so that was my little hesitation because I was about to speak about some things that he's done at lighter weights, and I don't want to bring that into this stance. So moving forward, one thing that I think Bud does well is that he's able to measure his distance. He because he's used to having that range, having that reach, having a longer reach than most of the other opponents he has. He usually starts off, and he does collect the quote unquote data, starts off slow so he can kind of see where the opponent's doing, but he has like a jab, a rangefinder jab, so he can figure out what distance he's going to fight this person at. And almost all the fights that I've seen him in, and so I'm combined. I know I'm taking fights from other divisions, but I have to do that because he's also done this at welterweight. So I look at it as an entire body, is that he's good at measuring distance and establishing his range so he can know what range he would fight in. And Bud does have good footwork as well. He doesn't fall for every feint. He's balanced. He has good balance. He does move pretty well. He creates good angles. He knows how to step to the side. So he has good defense in that regards. And in regards of him being able to have that footwork where he can create angles, he can step aside, and do a myriad of a couple other things based off of his footwork, which will allow him to perhaps put up a high guard if someone's coming in with a looping punch because he's already in whatever range, mid-range, which may be a little bit of a distance for the person to get to. So the person would try to throw a looping punch. So he would do his little step to the side, create that angle, but he would already have his hands up like in a high guard type of position where he could easily block that punch, whichever direction it might come from. So I'll pause right here, man. I'll let you go ahead and throw in something that you may think that Bud does well.
Yeah, I think Bud is he's a complete fighter. Um, he definitely have a good judgment of distance. I like his footwork. Even though he slowed down a little bit, he got some good footwork. Um, I think he got good timing too. I think his timing is pretty good. So I think he does well with timing. But the problem that he might have with Earl is the range. I don't think he's going to be able to fight at the range he want to fight at because Earl is either going to box him or smother him. And if he smother him, he's going to beat him to death in there. Um, and I think, I don't know, that's about all. That's about all. But I think that the cons to that would be with him starting slow, he might get behind and not be able to catch up. With him coming back, he keep his head on the line a little bit too much for me, especially with southpaw. I mean, he's subject to get hit with that straight down the middle shot. So that's what you got.
Yeah, I appreciate that, bro. Yeah, I definitely get exactly where you come from. Regarding EJ, some of the pros you pretty much listed. When you spoke about Bud's cons, when you spoke about his cons, there was a pro that you're throwing in there that EJ, does, and so I'm gonna add that into what I'm saying. One of the things he does that EJ does, he has very good pressure. And what you were stating is that you don't think Bud could really measure that distance with EJ. That's because EJ is very good at closing the distance, regardless of who he's with. So, in order to close distance, you have to have good footwork to do that. You also have to be able to create angles yourself. And the reason why many people who have that pressure kind of style of fighting, other than someone like Sean Porter, the reason why they're not really seen as having good footwork is because it's kind of hidden, because it seems like they're just plodding along, but you don't see all the little different foot changes that they are actually doing. And they do a lot of foot feints, so you don't even see many of the foot feints that they do to try to get a person to move in a particular direction that they would like them to do. And we call that cutting off the ring. And cutting off the ring is just not based off of you trying to throw a punch or move a person a particular way that you want him to fall into a punch. It has a lot to do with your foot placement, your footwork, and how you're moving the opponent and how you come. So it will look like you're plodding towards a person, but the way that your footwork is and the foot changes that you have, those things tend to cut off a person before a person can even think there's a punch that's coming. And that makes him have to hurry up and change his foot movement to make him go in a different direction. And you're doing all of this. Both of you guys are doing this, and not one punch has been thrown. That's how you're able to have what we call effective pressure and be able to cut off the ring at the same time, is by having very good footwork. And that's just without throwing a punch. So Errol Spence has that, and it kind of goes under the radar because people aren't really paying attention to how he moves his feet as well. We already know that he has a very good jab. So I'm not even going to bring out his jab. I'm not going to talk about that. One thing I'm going to bring out is that EJ himself has a chin. We rarely talk about that. He spars against people like Charlotte and all those other people. He has a chin. He's been hit a couple of times and he walks through those punches. He not only has a chin, but he's been hit to his body a couple of times and he's walked through those punches. So he's always in shape for the fights. And so those are a couple of pluses I have as well. What you got to throw on there for EJ?
Yeah, well, I think he got good foot placement because if you ever notice, his footwork always looked the same all the time. I mean, he's rarely out of sync with his footwork. I think of course, he's one of the best body workers out there. Sometimes he like to overextend a little bit when he's throwing that left. Uh, uh, that's about it. That's about it.
Very good, Randy.
You
So
got
I
anything
think
else on me?
yeah, we're running a little bit over time just now. So go
Yeah.
ahead, close out. What I'm going to do is I'll add my cons to each fighter in my prediction when I get out the fight prediction video tomorrow. But yeah, I think that's all I got on all this, Randy.
Okay. With that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, dislike. But whatever you do, please engage with us because we'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Make
And
sure
that's
y'all
all
check
we
out the
got.
video tomorrow, the prediction. We're putting out the fight prediction videos tomorrow. So make sure you guys come back and tune in for the fight prediction videos that we'll have tomorrow.
And with that being said, we're out of here like last year.